The 9,406th meeting of the Security Council is called to order. The provisional agenda for this meeting is non-proliferation, Democratic People's Republic of Korea. The agenda is adopted. In accordance with Rule 37 of the Council's Provisional Rules of Procedure, I invite the representatives of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and Republic of Korea to participate in this meeting. It is so decided. In accordance with Rule 39 of the Council's Provisional Rules of Procedure, I also invite Mr. Khaled Kiari, Assistant Secretary General for the Middle East, Asia, and the Pacific in the Departments of Political and Peacekeeping Affairs and Peace Operations to participate in this meeting. It is so decided. The Security Council will now begin its consideration of item 2 of the agenda. I now give the floor to Mr. Khaled Kiari. Having microphone issues.
At 3:50 a.m. local time at 24 August, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea conducted what it described as its second launch of a military reconnaissance satellite from the Sohae satellite launching station. The launch follows the previous attempt to launch a satellite on 31 May. According to the PRK, the launch failed due to an error in an emergency blasting system during the third stage flight, end quote. Official media said that a third reconnaissance satellite launch would be conducted in October. While the DPRK issued the pre-launch notification to the Japanese Coast Guard, it did not issue airspace or maritime safety notifications to the International Maritime Organization, the International Civil Aviation Organization, or the International Telecommunications Union. The DPRK's unannounced launches represent a serious risk to international civil aviation and maritime traffic. Madam President, on 24th of August, the Secretary General strongly condemned this launch of yet another satellite using ballistic missile technology. Any launch by the DPRK using ballistic missile technology is contrary to the relevant Security Council resolutions. He reiterated his call on the DPRK to cease such acts and to swiftly resume dialogue without preconditions to achieve the goal of sustainable peace and complete and verifiable denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Madam President, it should be recalled that developing a military reconnaissance satellite was part of the DPRK's 5-year military development plan, unveiled in January 2021. In line with the plan, the DPRK has significantly increased its missile launch activities in 2022 and 2023, including more than 90 launches using ballistic missile technology in violation of the relevant Security Council resolutions. Madam President, as we have previously briefed, there is a need for practical measures to reduce tensions, reverse the dangerous dynamic, and create space to explore diplomatic avenues. I emphasize the importance of reestablishing communication channels, particularly between military entities. Exercising maximum restraint is critical to avoid unintended escalation. Diplomacy and dialogue, not isolation, is the only way forward. In this respect, the Secretary General commends Japan, the Republic of Korea, and the United States for their continued willingness and offers to engage in dialogue with the DPRK on any issue without preconditions. Pending the complete and verifiable denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, it is imperative that the DPRK maintains the highest level of safety at its nuclear facilities in order to prevent nuclear accidents that will be disastrous for the region and the world. Madam President, the Security Council in its Resolution 2397 reaffirmed its decisions that the DPRK shall suspend all activities related to its ballistic missile program, abandon all nuclear weapons and existing nuclear programs in a complete, verifiable, and irreversible manner, and immediately cease all related activities. Since our last briefing on 13th of July, the DPRK has openly displayed its nuclear weapon delivery systems during both weaponry exhibitions and the military parade. Such displays undermine the global nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation regime and the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons that underpins it. Madam President, I would like to highlight once more our concerns regarding the humanitarian situation in the DPRK, compounded by the climate hazards and ongoing border closures. The United Nations is ready to assist the DPRK in addressing the basic needs of its vulnerable populations. We have been closely following reports of an easing of DPRK border restrictions. Given the progress in vaccines and treatments, and the declaration by the World Health Organization Director General on 5th of May that COVID-19 no longer constitutes a public health emergency of international concern, we urge the DPRK to allow the unimpeded re-entry and rotation of the international community, including the United Nations Resident Coordinator and other international UN staff. A collective return will positively impact international support to the people of DPRK and strengthen communication channels. Let me close by stressing that unity of the Security Council is essential. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank Mr. Chiari for his briefing. I shall now give the floor to the members of the Security Council who wish to make statements. I shall now make a statement in my capacity as representative of the United States. Thank you, Assistant Secretary General Chiari, for your informative briefing. Colleagues, the DPRK has once again defied this council. It has defied this council by continuing to pursue its unlawful ballistic missile program. On August 23rd, the DPRK attempted, yet again, to launch a satellite using a space launch vehicle. But even though this launch failed, and even though we were given advance notification, this is another violation of UN Security Council resolutions, a violation the United States condemns in the strongest possible terms. The Security Council has repeatedly demanded the DPRK not conduct any further launches using ballistic missile technology. These launches directly undermine the non-proliferation regime. They move us away from our collective goal of disarmament, and they threaten the DPRK's neighbors and the entire world. The DPRK claims, as it always has, its pursuit of a nuclear weapons program is an act of self-defense, but we all know the truth. The DPRK puts its paranoia and selfish interests over the dire needs of the North Korean people. The DPRK's war machine is fueled by repression and cruelty, as this council heard from UN experts just last week. It's shameful, and it's a grave threat to global peace. The DPRK's most recent launch caused an evacuation alert in Okinawa, raised tensions in Northeast Asia, destabilized the security situation in the region, and increased the risk of triggering military escalation. With each test, the DPRK further refines its weapons capabilities, and Pyongyang has already announced its commitment to launch another satellite in October. I urge every council member, every single member of this council, to condemn this launch and discourage the DPRK from conducting another test. The vast majority of council members have affirmed their opposition to the DPRK's unlawful actions and have called for council unity to address them. And we thank those members. We thank them for their continued partnership and dedication to non-proliferation. But colleagues, listen closely today to those countries that condemn and those countries that oppose the DPRK's continued pursuit of nuclear weapons, and pay equal attention to those that don't. Pay attention to which countries try to shield Kim Jong-un from criticism by pointing fingers at those of us calling out and defending ourselves from the regime's reckless behavior. This should be an issue that unifies us. We have all reaffirmed our commitment to the global non-proliferation regime time and time again. But since the beginning of 2022, this council has failed to live up to its commitments because of China and Russia's obstructionism. This is a relatively new phenomena here, an increasingly troubling one, I have to say. If we go back and watch council meetings from a few years ago, in 2017, every council member condemned or opposed the DPRK's unlawful actions. We used to stand together, and we used to stand united. And let me be clear, the United States and our allies have not changed our positions. We have always been committed to defending against the DPRK's continued pursuit of nuclear weapons, and our defensive joint military exercises are not new. So what changed? Why are some in this council now offering up excuses for the DPRK's pursuit of nuclear weapons? Last month, senior Russian and Chinese officials stood beside Kim Jong-un for a celebration of the regime's ballistic missile advancement. A celebration. The DPRK's nuclear threat is growing, and Russia and China are not living up to their responsibility to maintain international peace and security. Instead, they are celebrating violations of Security Council resolutions and continuing to block Council action. And while the DPRK refuses entry into international aid workers that could help alleviate the suffering of the North Korean people, the regime invites foreign leaders to Pyongyang to show off its unlawful weapons development. I want to reiterate the United States remains committed to diplomacy. Publicly and privately, at senior levels, we have repeatedly urged the DPRK to engage in dialogue. And Ambassador, I offer that to you today, that we are prepared to engage in diplomacy. We have made clear we have no preconditions for engagement and are prepared to discuss any topic of concern to your government. But the DPRK still not responded to our offers. Colleagues, we must return to an era when we used our collective voice to curb nuclear proliferation. We must unequivocally denounce the DPRK's unlawful behavior. We must call on the DPRK to fully and faithfully implement all relevant Security Council resolutions, and we must address the DPRK's global revenue-generating activities, which fund its unlawful weapons program. Division only empowers the DPRK. So let us work together. Let us work together once again to confront this pressing threat to international peace and security. Thank you very much. I now resume my role as President of the Council, and I give the floor to Albania.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, SG Chiari, for your remarks. Albania strongly condemns the launch of a space vehicle by the DPRK regime carrying its first military reconnaissance satellite. This is the second failure in 2 months from Pyongyang to put into orbit a spy satellite. We further condemn the announcement by the regime for the third attempt of this kind in October. Despite the fact that such efforts have failed so far, the biggest and the most worrisome is the regime's failure to comply with its obligations under international law. Such actions and statements are in violation of the UN Security Council resolutions, which prohibit North Korea from testing any technology that can be used to build ballistic missiles and that the regime openly challenges. We deplore that the regime has immured itself into a posture of defiance to the international community and continues to pursue to strengthen and modernize DPRK's military capabilities in an egregious behavior which exacerbates the volatile security situation in the entire Korean peninsula. We echo the Secretary General's call to the DPRK to cease these acts and to swiftly resume dialogue without preconditions. This is yet another important occasion at a critical time for the Security Council to come together, to be united with a clear and strong message: enough is enough. The Security Council resolutions are not concept notes, non-papers or talking points. They are mandatory legal documents, and the regime has an international obligation to comply with. Therefore, any attempt to show understanding with the provocative and escalatory actions of the regime or whatever efforts to protect it in its dangerous course has a direct and proven effect of emboldening the regime in its wrong course. It equals to providing Pyongyang a license to breaching Security Council resolutions, violating a comprehensive sanctions regime, and continue to be an unwarranted threat to peace and security. Let's face the truth. Such conciliatory approach has failed in practice. It has not helped to bring the regime close to its obligations and has not led to any de-escalation. In short, it has not brought any sense of security for the people in the Korean peninsula. Quite the contrary, it has convinced the regime that they could go away with crime. This is unacceptable because it is wrong and dangerous. The warmongers in North Korea must know that actions have consequences. We regret that the voice of the majority of the members of this council calling for the body to react to illegal, unprovoked and reckless actions by the DPRK is not taken into consideration so far. By being disunited on this issue, the council is failing its mandate and is not discharging its core responsibility. Therefore, we reiterate our position that not talking the talk to the regime of North Korea when they remain in a defiant, escalatory and dangerous behavior is not a contribution to peace and security. In this respect, we wonder about the real impact and usefulness of the visit to Pyongyang of the Russian Minister of Defense amidst suspected and illegal armed deals with another country threatening its neighbors. Madam President, this is why we believe that the situation requires more than ever for the Council to respond with diplomatic tools and a strong, unified response to such a situation. We don't have to wait for the worst to happen to react. This is one of the best cases when prevention efforts could be fully and must be fully explored. All neighboring countries, including the people of Japan and the Republic of Korea, need to be assured that the Council takes the threat posed by the regime seriously, by the DPRK regime seriously, and is determined and committed to respond in a prompt and proper way. Just a few days ago, we discussed in this chamber the dire and worsening humanitarian situation and human rights situation due to the deplorable path chosen by the DPRK regime to deny its population the food they need by providing itself weapons they don't. In concluding, Madam President, let me reaffirm that we will continue to advocate for and support genuine efforts to address the threat posed by the DPRK through collective preventive diplomacy and ensure that the regime ends fully, transparently, comprehensively, and irreversibly its weapon of mass destruction, ballistic and nuclear program, and call on the DPRK to give diplomacy more than just a chance. It is high time for the Council to come together again, speak with one voice, and be united in a clear response as soon as possible. And I thank you.
I thank the representative of Albania for their statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of Ecuador.
Gracias, señora Presidente. Agradezco la exposición informativa del señor Khaled Chiari, subsecretario general para Oriente Medio, Asia y el Pacífico. Reconozco la presencia de los representantes permanentes de la República de Corea y de la República Popular Democrática de Corea. El Ecuador condena enérgicamente este nuevo intento fallido de lanzamiento de un satélite por parte de la República Popular Democrática de Corea. El pasado 23 de agosto de 2023, mi delegación se solidarizó con la población de Japón por los riesgos que enfrentaron con este lanzamiento. Este acto evidencia una vez más las flagrantes violaciones por parte de la República Popular Democrática de Corea de las resoluciones adoptadas por este Consejo de Seguridad que prohíben todo tipo de lanzamiento que utilice tecnología de misiles balísticos. El pasado 22 de junio de 2023, en esta misma sala, la mayoría de los miembros de este Consejo de Seguridad condenamos el primer intento de lanzamiento de un satélite a reconocimiento militar por parte de la República Popular Democrática de Corea. Han pasado tan solo 3 meses y nos enfrentamos a esta nueva situación que desafía al accionar del Consejo de Seguridad. El 21 de junio de 2023, los ministros de Relaciones Exteriores de los Estados miembros de la Organización del Tratado de Seguridad Colectiva emitieron una declaración en la cual, entre otros puntos, cito, declaran que la exclusión del espacio ultraterrestre de la esfera de la carrera de armamentos y la preservación del espacio ultraterrestre para fines pacíficos debe convertirse en una norma obligatoria de la política de los Estados y una obligación internacional generalmente reconocida. Además, que harán, cito nuevamente, todo lo posible para impedir que el espacio ultraterrestre se convierta en un escenario de confrontación militar y para garantizar la seguridad de las actividades espaciales. Por ello, esperamos su condena de este lanzamiento, que es una innegable violación del derecho internacional, de las resoluciones de este Consejo de Seguridad, especialmente de la 2087 de 2013 y 2270 del 2016, además de varias resoluciones de la Asamblea General de las Naciones Unidas. Ecuador recuerda la importancia de observar los principios básicos relacionados con el uso pacífico del espacio ultraterrestre, establecidos en el Tratado sobre los principios que deben regir las actividades de los Estados en la exploración y utilización del espacio ultraterrestre, incluso la Luna y otros cuerpos celestes. Mi delegación exige a la República Popular Democrática de Corea a cumplir plenamente sus obligaciones que derivan de las resoluciones emanadas de este Consejo de Seguridad y se abstenga de realizar nuevos intentos de lanzamiento de satélites que utilicen tecnología balística, además de retomar la cooperación para alcanzar el objetivo de una paz sustentable en la región y su desnuclearización completa y verificable. Para concluir, reitero el llamado a buscar la unidad de este Consejo de Seguridad para establecer un diálogo basado en la buena fe que permita una solución diplomática y política en la península de Corea. Muchas gracias.
I thank the representative of Ecuador for their statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of France.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Je remercie Monsieur Chiari pour son exposé. Madame la Présidente, le 24 août dernier, la Corée du Nord s'est livrée une nouvelle fois à une tentative de lancement de satellites militaires. Cette tentative, comme celle du 31 mai dernier, est une violation flagrante du droit international. La France condamne fermement cette action provocatrice et déstabilisatrice qui viole de façon délibérée les résolutions du Conseil de sécurité et le droit international et représente une triple menace pour la paix et la sécurité internationale, pour l'intégrité du régime international de non-prolifération et pour l'autorité de ce Conseil. Depuis 2009, ce Conseil a demandé à de nombreuses reprises à la Corée du Nord de ne pas mener des activités balistiques conçues pour être capables d'emporter des armes nucléaires et toute autre arme de destruction massive. Du fait de la grande proximité des technologies employées lors des lancements spatiaux et des tirs balistiques, ce lancement témoigne des progrès déjà préoccupants réalisés par la Corée du Nord dans son programme de missiles balistiques. Il démontre la volonté de poursuivre l'escalade de ces derniers mois, qui ont vu une accélération sans précédent des lancements et une multiplication des déclarations irresponsables de la part de Pyongyang. Ce Conseil ne peut rester inactif et doit répondre de manière unie à cette nouvelle violation de ces résolutions. Nous n'accepterons pas que la Corée du Nord devienne un État nucléaire. La France n'acceptera pas la banalisation d'une telle menace pour la paix et la sécurité régionale et internationale. À ce titre, il est indispensable que tous les membres de ce Conseil veillent à ce qu'aucun soutien ne soit fourni à la Corée du Nord en vue de la poursuite du développement de ses programmes nucléaires et balistiques. Nous devons collectivement continuer d'appeler à la désescalade et à la reprise du dialogue sans condition en vue d'un abandon par la Corée du Nord de ses programmes nucléaires et balistiques de manière complète, vérifiable et irréversible, conformément aux résolutions du Conseil de sécurité. La France exhorte donc la Corée du Nord à se conformer sans délai à ses obligations internationales et à revenir à la table des négociations en donnant suite aux offres de dialogue qui lui ont été présentées à plusieurs reprises. Face aux provocations de la Corée du Nord, qui menacent la paix et la sécurité régionale et internationale, ce Conseil doit être exemplaire et uni pour assurer la mise en œuvre de ces résolutions et pour lutter en particulier contre le contournement des sanctions. Je vous remercie.
The representative of France for their statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of Brazil.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, dear colleagues, I thank ASG Khaled Chiari for his briefing. Brazil joins the international community in condemning the use of ballistic missile technology in the launch of a satellite launch vehicle by the DPRK on August 23rd. While fully recognizing the right of all countries to pursue peaceful space programs, Brazil stresses the imperative for the DPRK to strictly comply with all of its obligations under international law and Security Council resolutions. As we noted in June, the Cholima-1 rocket uses engines similar to those used in the liquid-fueled ICBM Hwasong-15. This constitutes a clear violation of Resolution 2094, which prohibits the DPRK from conducting, quote, any further launches that use ballistic missile technology, unquote. Brazil will continue to make efforts to promote a meaningful engagement that can contribute to lowering tensions and reducing the risks of escalation. At the same time, the DPRK, I reiterate, must comply with all its international obligations, just as any state abiding by international law in general and the Charter of the United Nations specifically. We urge all parties to exercise restraint when responding to space launches and stress that meaningful engagement, not isolation, remains our best path towards a Korean peninsula that is peaceful, stable, and free of nuclear weapons. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Brazil for their statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of Malta.
Thank you, Madam President, and I also thank ASG Chiari for his informative briefing. Malta is deeply concerned about the recent attempt to launch a satellite by DPRK and strongly condemns it. The launch is another blatant violation of Resolution 2397, which prohibits DPRK from conducting any launch using ballistic missile technology. We are gravely concerned about DPRK's intention to conduct another launch in October, which would constitute yet another act of defiance and destabilization. Even though this launch has failed, such tests can help DPRK improve its technology and advance its program. Malta joined others in calling for this meeting, as it recognizes that these acts increase tensions and risk further destabilizing the region. They pose a serious threat to international peace and security and erode the global non-proliferation regime. We recall that the Council had unanimously adopted Resolution 2397. At the time, it had also established that it would act and place further restrictions on DPRK in case of new violations. We remain firm in our belief that the Council cannot be silent in the face of these provocations. Persistent inability to act would simply undermine the Council's credibility as the guarantor of international peace and security. We strongly urge DPRK to cease all provocative acts, engage in meaningful dialogue, and adhere to its obligations under Security Council resolutions. It must completely, verifiably, and irreversibly abandon its ballistic missiles program and return to the Non-Proliferation Treaty and IAEA safeguards. Malta also remains deeply concerned about the dire humanitarian situation in the country, the restrictions to humanitarian access, and the grave human rights violations perpetrated by the regime, as highlighted during last week's discussion. Serious humanitarian needs continue to be ignored by the DPRK leadership. Instead, it chooses to allocate resources to its costly ballistic missile and illegal weapons program. Malta calls on DPRK to restore access to the UN and other humanitarian actors in order to provide its population with the aid it requires. In closing, Madam President, we reiterate that our shared objective is peace and denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. In order to achieve this, we need a strong and united Council, while divisions and inaction will only postpone our objectives indefinitely. To this end, Malta remains supportive of a Council product to express this Council's determination in ensuring peace and security on the Korean Peninsula. And I thank you.
Representative of Malta for their statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of the United Kingdom.
Thank you, President. I thank ASG Chiari for his briefing, and I welcome the participation of the representatives of the Republic of Korea and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea at this meeting. The DPRK has made another failed launch of a military reconnaissance satellite. It triggered Japan's local alert system in Okinawa. This was yet another grave violation of UN Security Council resolutions and a brazen effort to further expand the DPRK's military program. The DPRK have said they will try again. Claims that so-called provocations, or rather legitimate and transparently declared military exercises, caused these launches are baseless. The DPRK is not reacting. This is part of a long-established, clearly defined plan that has required extensive scientific and technological investment. Kim Jong-un said it himself in January this year. The National Aerospace Development Administration will launch the first military satellite at the earliest date possible by pushing ahead with the full preparation for a reconnaissance satellite and its vehicle, a major task to boost the political, ideological, military, and technical strength of his army. Colleagues, the Council must take action. All of us here have signed, ratified, and support the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. All of us should be committed to the full implementation of UN Security Council resolutions. We have a responsibility to uphold these obligations. Our words and deeds matter. They are the message we send to the world about our commitment to preventing nuclear non-proliferation globally. We took note of the presence of permanent members, including the Russian Defense Minister, at a DPRK weapons exhibition with intercontinental ballistic missiles on display. Interactions such as these signal support for UN-sanctioned weapons programs. The United Kingdom urges the DPRK to cease these launches, to return to dialogue, and to take credible steps towards denuclearization and peace on the Korean Peninsula. We hope their presence at this meeting is a step forward in this regard. The biggest victims of the DPRK's military program are the North Korean people. Resources are diverted away from their basic economic needs. The DPRK should open its borders and engage the UN. President, all UN member states have an obligation to fully implement UN Security Council resolutions, including sanctions on the DPRK. I call on all members of this Council to reiterate their condemnation of the DPRK's illegal nuclear and ballistic missile programs in line with their responsibilities as UN member states and signatories to the NPT. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the United Kingdom for their statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of Japan.
Madam President, I thank ASG Khaled Kari for his briefing. It is regrettable that we are here yet again to discuss the same issue as we had in June and July concerning the latest ICBM launch. North Korea's series of actions, including this week's launch using ballistic missile technology, which flew directly over the Japanese archipelago, severely threatened the peace and security of Japan, the region, and the entire international community. These aggressive acts are flagrant violations of the relevant Security Council resolutions and serious challenge to the international nuclear non-proliferation regime. Japan joined the Secretary General in strongly condemning North Korea for the recent launch. Madam President, this is not about the right to use outer space. This is not about exercising the right of self-defense. This is about violation of Security Council resolutions, and this is about the non-proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. In the face of North Korea's unlawful nuclear and ballistic missile programs, this Council has adopted many resolutions prohibiting any launch using ballistic missile technology. This is why the Secretary General and most Council members condemned the satellite launch at the June meeting, regardless of whether it carried a satellite or not, regardless of whether it failed or not. Nevertheless, North Korea has continued to ignore and deny its international obligations and instead chose to pursue its military ambition according to its 5-year plan. It has been shamelessly announced its intention to conduct another launch in October. Madam President, North Korea is disrespectful of this Council and the United Nations Charter. Let me remind fellow colleagues once again, our solemn duty as responsible Council members cannot be fulfilled by simply sitting and discussing the matter in these chamber seats. It requires taking concrete actions when confronted with violation of this Council's own resolutions. Furthermore, our responsibility is to never celebrate a military parade that includes ICBMs, which demonstrates a clear violation of Security Council resolutions. I urge all Council members to be aware of our responsibilities and to restore the unity that it has shown in 2017. Madam President, last week, when we gathered in this chamber to discuss the human rights situation in North Korea, we all heard shocking remarks from a North Korean defector. Here I quote, "The government turns our blood and sweat into a luxurious life for the leadership and missiles that blast our hard work into the sky. We used to think that the money spent on just one missile could feed us for 3 months, but the government does not care." End quote. Let me ask again, if the money spent on launching numerous satellites and missiles toward neighboring countries had been spent on people in North Korea instead, how many would have been fed? How many lives would have been saved? It is high time for North Korea to stop developing unlawful WMDs and stop disseminating propaganda to justify its actions, and instead to prioritize improving the welfare of the people in North Korea. Japan urges North Korea not to conduct further launches and once again calls on North Korea to immediately and fully comply with all relevant resolutions, resume substantive dialogue with the countries concerned toward complete denuclearization. The path to dialogue remains open. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Japan for their statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of Gabon.
Je remercie le sous-secrétaire général Khaled Kiari pour son exposé. Je salue la participation à cette réunion des représentants permanents de la Corée et de la RPDC. Nous nous réunissons à nouveau cet après-midi suite à la tentative de lancement d'un engin spatial par la République populaire démocratique de Corée. Mon pays condamne cet acte qui fait monter le niveau de la tension et de la peur au point que certains pays voisins ont dû mettre en alerte leur système de défense antimissiles. Ce Conseil doit plus que jamais se mobiliser devant l'ampleur de la menace qui pèse sur la péninsule coréenne et ouvrir une voie pour sortir de ce cercle vicieux. Le statu quo n'est pas une option viable parce qu'il accroît le risque d'une catastrophe aux conséquences potentielles irréparables. L'ensemble des parties doit reprendre les négociations afin de trouver une issue à même de garantir la sécurité de tous et la coexistence pacifique dans cette région. En tant qu'État partie au traité sur la non-prolifération nucléaire, le Gabon est contre tout recours ou menace de recours à cette catégorie d'armes. Et au regard du contexte sécuritaire international actuel, nous sommes très inquiets de la banalisation du risque nucléaire. Madame la Présidente, cette génération est de façon évidente en train d'opérer un recul par rapport au chemin parcouru et aux acquis engrangés de haute lutte en matière de désarmement et de non-prolifération nucléaire. Cette tendance totalement à rebours de l'histoire n'est pas acceptable. Nous appelons les parties à la désescalade, à s'abstenir d'initiatives unilatérales et à privilégier le dialogue pour résoudre durablement la situation. Les tensions dans la péninsule coréenne doivent baisser et la confiance restaurée pour une reprise des pourparlers. Nous exhortons l'ensemble des parties à éviter toute action ou rhétorique belliqueuse de nature à alimenter les antagonismes. Je voudrais enfin appeler les pays qui ont une influence sur les protagonistes à inciter à la reprise des négociations. J'exhorte également l'AIEA à maintenir ouverts les canaux diplomatiques avec la RPDC et à tout mettre en œuvre pour rétablir et garantir la confiance nécessaire entre les parties pour des négociations apaisées. Je vous remercie.
I thank the representative of Gabon for their statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of Switzerland.
Madame la Présidente, nous remercions le sous-secrétaire général Chiari pour son exposé et saluons la participation des représentants de la République populaire démocratique de Corée et de la République de Corée à nos délibérations. La Suisse a observé avec la plus grande inquiétude le deuxième essai par la RPDC de lancer un satellite d'observation militaire en recourant à la technologie des missiles balistiques. Nous saluons donc la tenue de cette réunion. Ce Conseil ne doit pas rester passif face à ces essais qui, conjointement avec le programme nucléaire de la RPDC, constituent une menace pour la paix et la sécurité internationale. Permettez-moi de souligner 3 points. Premièrement, la Suisse condamne tout tir recourant à la technologie des missiles balistiques car il constitue une violation des résolutions de ce Conseil. Comme évoqué lors de notre séance début juin, les questions de la charge de la fusée ou de l'annonce préalable ne sont pas déterminantes dans cette situation. Ce tir constitue donc une violation du droit international. Face à cela, il est de notre devoir, en tant que membre de ce Conseil, de le condamner et d'y répondre. Nous réitérons notre appel à la RPDC à renoncer à toute future tentative de lancement des missiles balistiques. Deuxièmement, si les obligations qui découlent des résolutions valent en premier lieu pour la RPDC, elles s'appliquent également à tous les États qui sont tenus de mettre en œuvre de manière effective les sanctions du Conseil de sécurité. En plus, en tant que membre de ce Conseil et en tant qu'État partie au traité sur la non-prolifération des armes nucléaires, nous sommes tous tenus de lutter contre la prolifération des armes nucléaires. La tentative de légitimer publiquement le développement du programme nucléaire de la RPDC exige notre vigilance continue et nous devons nous engager en faveur du désarmement et du maintien du tabou nucléaire. Troisièmement, nous ne devons pas oublier le sort de la population de la RPDC. Les violations graves et systématiques des droits humains et l'impunité des auteurs doivent cesser. Nous saluons les premiers signes d'assouplissement des lourdes restrictions mises en place par la RPDC en lien avec la pandémie. Ces restrictions constituent un obstacle majeur à l'aide humanitaire ainsi qu'au respect et à l'exercice des droits humains. Nous soulignons que l'ouverture des frontières de la RPDC doit aller de pair avec un accès rapide, sûr et sans entrave à l'aide humanitaire. Pour y parvenir, l'entrée en RPDC du personnel international est de la plus haute importance. Madame la Présidente, ce Conseil joue un rôle indispensable pour encourager le dialogue, la désescalade et la prospection de solutions diplomatiques. Il s'agit d'instruments essentiels permettant de faciliter la mise en œuvre d'une solution pacifique, globale et durable à la situation de la péninsule coréenne. Nous avons un objectif commun et une responsabilité partagée dans ce sens. La Suisse continuera son engagement pour avancer dans cette direction. Je vous remercie.
I thank the representative of Switzerland for their statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of the United Arab Emirates.
السيدة الرئيسة، أشكر الأمين العام المساعد السيد خالد خياري على إحاطته القيمة، وتنضم دولة الإمارات إلى الأمين العام في إدانته الشديدة لمحاولة إطلاق جمهورية كوريا الديمقراطية الشعبية مرة أخرى قمراً استطلاعياً عسكرياً هذا الأسبوع، وذلك منذ آخر محاولة لها في مايو الماضي، حيث تشكل هذه الأحداث مصدر قلق بالغ وتصعيداً خطيراً في شبه الجزيرة الكورية. كما نعرب عن شواغلنا إزاء المعلومات التي بثتها وسائل الإعلام الرسمية في الجمهورية إزاء اعتزام جمهورية كوريا الديمقراطية الشعبية إجراء عملية إطلاق أخرى بعد فشل الصاروخ الباليستي الذي يحمل القمر الصناعي، حيث نذكر هنا أن مجلس الأمن قد حظر على جمهورية كوريا الديمقراطية الشعبية إجراء أي إطلاق باستخدام تكنولوجيا الصواريخ الباليستية، وعليه نحث جمهورية كوريا الديمقراطية الشعبية وبشدة على الكف عن أنشطتها غير القانونية والخطيرة والاستفزازية. وفي سياق اجتماع اليوم تود دولة الإمارات التأكيد على 3 نقاط. أولاً، يجب أن تتوقف جمهورية كوريا الديمقراطية الشعبية عن ترهيب وترويع المدنيين من خلال عمليات الإطلاق المتكررة، ونشدد في هذا السياق بأن الإنذار المسبق الذي أصدرته الجهات المعنية في جمهورية كوريا الديمقراطية الشعبية لا يضفي أي شرعية على تلك العمليات. ومن المؤسف كذلك اضطرار المدنيين في إقليم أوكيناوا في اليابان للتعامل مع الإنذارات في تمام الساعة 4 صباحاً نتيجة لأعمال جمهورية كوريا الديمقراطية الشعبية الخطيرة وغير الشرعية. ونؤكد مجدداً على تضامننا مع حكومات وشعوب الدول المجاورة ومع المنطقة بأكملها. ثانياً، يجب على المجلس توجيه رسالة موحدة إلى جمهورية كوريا الديمقراطية الشعبية مفادها ضرورة الامتثال لقرارات مجلس الأمن وعدم إجراء تجارب مماثلة. ونكرر دعوتنا لجمهورية كوريا الديمقراطية الشعبية بالعودة إلى الدبلوماسية والحوار، كما أن اتخاذ مسار لنزع السلاح النووي بشكل كامل وقابل للتحقق ولا رجعة فيه، بما يشمل العودة إلى معاهدة عدم الانتشار، هو السبيل الوحيد أمام جمهورية كوريا الديمقراطية الشعبية والمجتمع الدولي لتحقيق السلم والأمن في شبه الجزيرة الكورية. ثالثاً، من الضروري مواصلة إيلاء الاهتمام للظروف الإنسانية القاسية والمقلقة التي يعيشها الشعب في جمهورية كوريا الديمقراطية الشعبية. وفي حين أن آلية الإعفاءات التي أنشأتها لجنة مجلس الأمن 1718 تسمح بإيصال المساعدات للجمهورية، إلا أن الأوضاع الخطيرة على الأرض تتطلب من المعنيين في جمهورية كوريا الديمقراطية الشعبية تغليب مصلحة الشعب واتخاذ إجراءات للتخفيف من معاناتهم، بما في ذلك عبر السماح للأمم المتحدة والمنظمات الإنسانية بالعودة إلى البلاد لتقديم المساعدات الإنسانية الإغاثية. ختاماً السيدة الرئيسة، لطالما كان مجلس الأمن أكثر فاعلية في صون السلم والأمن الدوليين عندما كان متحداً، لا سيما بشأن شبه الجزيرة الكورية، وذلك حين اتخذ موقفاً موحداً في السابق كان من شأنه كبح المساعي غير المشروعة لجمهورية كوريا الديمقراطية الشعبية بامتلاك الأسلحة النووية. ولهذا فإن دولة الإمارات على أتم الاستعداد لبحث سبل توحيد الموقف مجدداً في هذا الملف ليتمكن المجلس من الاطلاع بدوره في صون السلم والأمن الدوليين. شكراً السيدة الرئيسة.
I thank the representative of the United Arab Emirates for their statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of Ghana.
I thank you, Madam President. Let me begin by thanking ASG Khaled Kiari for his helpful briefing to the Council. We welcome the participation of the representatives of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and the Republic of Korea and look forward to their statements. Madam President, consistent with Ghana's position on the nuclear weapons and ballistic technologies program of the DPRK, we strongly deplore the second attempted launch of a military satellite by the DPRK in 3 months. The launch, which involved technologies related to the ICBM's program, violates multiple Security Council resolutions banning any launch using ballistic technologies. We call on the DPRK to abate its long-term ambitions for nuclear weapon capability and embrace the international community's call, as well as the unconditional offer of the United States for dialogue in resolving the interconnected concerns of the disputes relating to the Korean Peninsula. In the meantime, we strongly urge the DPRK to refrain from further launches using ballistic missile technology and to comply with its international obligations under relevant Security Council resolutions. The envisaged and acceptable solution to the problems on the Korean Peninsula cannot include a state with nuclear capabilities nor the possibility of there being a nuclear arms race in the region. Madam President, we therefore underscore the need for the resumption of constructive and credible dialogue between concerned parties and the DPRK to find an enduring, comprehensive, and peaceful solution to the issues on the Korean Peninsula, and in a manner that recognizes the regional and global security concerns, as well as those of the parties. We have a responsibility to steer the region away from the path of catastrophe and preserve the peace and lives on the peninsula. As a founding member of the non-aligned movement, it is Ghana's hope that the resolution of the situation on the Korean Peninsula would contribute to a nuclear weapons-free world. I thank you for your attention.
I thank the representative of Ghana for their statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of Mozambique.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to begin by thanking Mr. Khaled Kiari, Assistant Secretary General, for his briefing. We acknowledge the presence in this chamber of the permanent representatives of the Democratic and People's Republic of Korea and the Republic of Korea. Madam President, Mozambique echoes the concerns expressed by fellow Council members in light of the recent missile launched by DPRK. We strongly urge the DPRK to respect and adhere to the Security Council resolutions and to recommit to the denuclearization and peaceful resolution of the persistent crisis in the Korean Peninsula. We call upon all stakeholders involved in the matter of non-proliferation in the Korean Peninsula to act with utmost responsibility. It is imperative to avoid any unilateral actions that may exacerbate the already tenuous detente in the region. Madam President, it has been clear that the continued situation of tension on the Korean Peninsula has the potential to endanger the maintenance of international peace and security in the region and in the world at large in a time when complex challenges emerge and multiply. Mozambique, therefore, appeals all members of the Security Council to reflect on the best actions to be taken in order to seek for peace and harmony in the Korean Peninsula region, avoid recurrence of the use of force or any other retaliatory form. We must intensify our diplomatic engagement and seize every available window of opportunity to re-engage all parties in a constructive dialogue and accept the goodwill of the international community. Mozambique reiterates its belief that all peaceful forms of seeking peaceful solution to the tensions on the Korean Peninsula have not yet been exhausted. This Council has a primary responsibility to contribute to the international peace and security by all peaceful means possible. Thus, this Council cannot spare its efforts to urge the parties as well as recommend them the best peace routes. We call on the Council, which is entrusted with the responsibility of maintaining international peace and security, to not vacillate in the pursuit of a permanent resolution for this serious threat to peace and prosperity in the Korean Peninsula and in the region. I thank you, Madam President.
I thank the representative of Mozambique for their statement. I now give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation.
Госпожа председатель, данное заседание – очередная в этом месяце иллюстрация беспардонного подхода американского председательства к использованию своего кресла в Совете для продвижения узкокорыстной политизированной повестки. Председательство, запросив в национальном качестве наряду с Албанией, Эквадором, Францией, Японией и Мальтой открытый брифинг по КНДР, не удосужилось создать даже видимость консультаций среди членов Совета Безопасности по поводу необходимости такой дискуссии и ее формата. Сами же запросили заседание и сами же его немедленно назначили. Такими действиями США показывают, что мнение других членов Совета их совершенно не волнует. Очевидно, что созыв сегодняшнего заседания не более чем циничная и лицемерная попытка США и их союзников нарастить давление на Пхеньян и отвлечь внимание от безрассудных эскалационных действий Вашингтона и его союзников в регионе, которые являются реальным источником угроз международному миру и безопасности. При этом Вашингтон в своей традиционной манере переводит стрелки, лицемерно обвиняя других и не признавая за собой никакой ответственности за эскалацию в Северо-Восточной Азии. Но, разумеется, ведь Соединенные Штаты, как жена Цезаря, вне подозрений. Удивлены, что деструктивная военная активность США, Республики Корея и Японии в Северо-Восточной Азии ни единым словом не упомянуты в сегодняшнем докладе помощника генерального секретаря Халеда Кьяри. Сожалеем, что это важное обстоятельство полностью игнорируется секретариатом, который должен занимать беспристрастную и объективную позицию.
Россия неизменно выступает против любой военной активности, которая несет в себе угрозу безопасности Корейского полуострова и соседних стран. Вашингтон и Токио же совместно с Сеулом регулярно нагнетают обстановку вокруг полуострова. На это, в частности, нацелены региональные военные учения союзников в рамках своей концепции так называемого расширенного сдерживания КНДР, масштабы которой неуклонно наращиваются. Это откровенно провокационные линии, которые еще более затрудняют перспективы для налаживания диалога, столь необходимого для укрепления региональной безопасности. Не будем забывать и о серии американо-южнокорейских воздушных маневров истребителей и стратегических бомбардировщиков США в июне, а также о появлении около Корейского полуострова американской атомной подводной лодки. Крайне негативно на ситуацию воздействуют попытки США и их союзников создать в регионе в угоду Вашингтона новые разграничительные линии посредством формирования закрытых объединений, равно как и планы перемещения туда части военной инфраструктуры НАТО. Озабоченность вызывают также противоречивые сигналы со стороны американских союзников Северо-Восточной Азии, Токио и Сеула о так называемом усилении взаимодействия с Вашингтоном в ядерной сфере, которое вполне можно истолковать как допущение возможности размещения на их территории американского ядерного оружия и разработки собственного. Некоторые члены Совета стремятся вывести все эти факторы за скобки, хотя именно они в конечном счете являются ключевыми причинами деградации ситуации в регионе. Все находящиеся здесь делегации хорошо об этом знают, однако изменений к лучшему не происходит. Констатируем, что давление на Пхеньян не ограничивается сугубо военной активностью. К сожалению, в ход идет и площадка Совета Безопасности ООН. Лишним подтверждением этому стал созыв на прошлой неделе абсолютно бессмысленного с практической точки зрения заседания по правам человека в КНДР. Для продвижения своей ангажированной повестки инициаторы мероприятия пренебрегли мандатом Совета, который не уполномочен заниматься правозащитными вопросами. На этом фоне нет ничего удивительного, что напряженность в Северо-Восточной Азии, как и в Азиатско-Тихоокеанском регионе в целом, лишь возрастает. Напомню, что профильная резолюция Совета Безопасности ООН предписывает искать пути политико-дипломатического урегулирования ситуации на Корейском полуострове. Последние события вокруг него говорят о необходимости немедленной деэскалации, отказа от провокаций и возврата к переговорам. В этой связи вновь обращаю внимание, что на столе остается российско-китайский план действий по комплексному урегулированию ситуации на Корейском полуострове, подразумевающий конкретные шаги на всех проблемных направлениях. Безусловно, его реализация потребует налаживания взаимоуважительного диалога, учета законных озабоченностей и прав всех вовлеченных государств, включая, естественно, КНДР. Однако вместо этого на данном этапе мы наблюдаем отсутствие готовности к этому ввиду позиции отдельных членов Совета, в выступлении которых по-прежнему уделяется мизерное внимание поиску реалистичных путей решения накопившихся проблем субрегиона. Актуальность сохраняет и российско-китайский проект «Политика гуманитарной резолюции». Нет сомнений, что его потенциальное принятие принесет куда больше пользы в сравнении с такими заведомо тупиковыми мерами, как демонизация Пхеньяна и бесчеловечная политика наращивания санкционного давления. Убеждены, что политика жестких рестрикций давно себя исчерпала. Она в корне противоречит задачам восстановления доверия, которыми должен быть озабочен Совет Безопасности в первую очередь. Полагаем, что в реальности Совету под силу переломить эту наболевшую проблему в случае, если все его члены Совета, будут готовы работать непредвзято, реагируя на угрозы международному миру и безопасности, с учетом всех сопутствующих факторов, вместо того, чтобы слепо продолжать зачитывать избитые пропагандистские клише. Со своей стороны, как и всегда, готовы участвовать в конструктивном и предметном обсуждении способов конкретного решения всего комплекса проблем Корейского полуострова, к чему призываем и другие члены Совета. Благодарю за внимание.
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation for their statement, and I give the floor to the representative of China.
主席女士，我要感谢加利助理秘书长的通报，也欢迎朝鲜 和韩国常驻代表出席今天的会议。一段时间以来，朝鲜半岛紧张局势持续加剧，朝鲜方面多次进行发射活动，美国等有关方面持续进行军事活动。这种局面令人担忧，是中方不愿意看到。虽然有关国家习惯于将所有的责任推给朝方，但必须指出的是，近期朝方发射活动均与有关国家军事活动密切相关。朝方今年初曾一度保持克制，并一再发出停止敌对行动的呼吁，却未得到认真对待。我讲这些不是要将形势恶化完全归咎于某一方，而是希望各方能够理性、平衡地看待问题。面对本轮半岛紧张局势，各方都应反思问题出在哪里，下一步该怎么办，安理会要做些什么。首先，半岛问题不是简单的核岛问题，其本质是冷战遗留的政治安全问题，核心在于互信缺失，和平机制缺失。关键在于到底是要和平，还是要战争。长期以来，美国始终未改变对朝鲜的敌视政策，持续对朝施压，使朝鲜的不安全感日益上升。就在上个月，美国的战略核潜艇在时隔40多年后又出现在朝鲜半岛。就在上个星期，美方作为主席，执意安排安理会审议朝鲜人权局势。就在这几天，美国等还在如火如荼地开展已知自由护盾联合军演。这些举动无助于增进互信，无助于推动半岛和平机制建设，只会加剧半岛紧张局势，推高对抗冲突的风险，甚至最终导致战争。第二，半岛问题的最终解决有赖于大国良性互动和良好的地区环境。回顾半岛问题的历史经纬，不难发现，只有地区主要大国保持总体稳定的合作关系，围绕半岛问题的外交努力才能取得成效。近年来，个别国家在半岛问题上借题发挥，刻意制造紧张，把半岛纳入印太战略，拉紧同盟伙伴关系，大幅增加地区军事存在，严重损害半岛及周边国家的战略安全利益。这种做法充斥冷战思维，挑动阵营对抗，破坏各方互信，完全服务于一己的地缘私利，与维护半岛和平稳定、推动半岛无核化的目标背道而驰。第三，推动半岛走出安全困境，对话谈判是唯一的正确途径。历史上，半岛问题曾有过通过外交努力走向柳暗花明的时刻，朝方也曾采取一系列无核化举措，但某个当事国政策反复多变，未能履行行动对行动的原则，未能遵守有关对话中的承诺，造成解决半岛问题的几次机遇都被丧失，半岛矛盾越来越复杂，事态越来越紧张。当前形势下，各方均应保持冷静克制，避免相互刺激，多做有利于恢复对话的事，多做有利于和平稳定的事。第四，安理会应为缓和紧张、推动政治解决发挥建设性作用。中俄在安理会共提的涉朝决议草案，旨在释放善意和积极信号， 为半岛问题的政治解决注入动力。令人遗憾的是，有关国家对中俄及其他成员的合理建议视而不见，执迷于制裁与施压的魔力。刚才，美国代表还在发言中对中俄在半岛问题上的立场进行无端指责。当前形势下，安理会需要的是团结一致，不是分化对立。需要的是为半岛问题政治解决提供助力，而不是制造阻力。有关国家应该做的，不是利用安理会平台进一步激化矛盾、升级事态，而是拿出实际行动和具体方案，回应朝方合理关切，为重启对话付出努力，创造条件。最后，我要重申，中方坚持维护半岛和平稳定，坚持实现半岛无核化，坚持通过对话协商解决问题的立场没有改变。我们愿意继续与有关各方保持密切沟通，为推动半岛问题政治解决，实现东北亚的长治久安，发挥建设性作用。谢谢主席。
The representative of China for their statement. I shall now make a further statement in my capacity as representative of the United States. We reject the disingenuous claims by Russia and China that the U.S. is acting in a hostile manner. U.S. allied military exercises are routine, they're lawful, and they are defensive in nature. And unlike the DPRK's ballistic missile launches, they are not prohibited by UN Security Council resolutions. And as a reminder, the DPRK has actually conducted 6 ICBM launches in 2022 before the US and ROK resumed our large-scale exercises in August of that year. Colleagues, I want to recall what I said in my statement, that we should pay attention to what other members of the Council are saying. 13 out of 15 countries on this Council call for an end to the development of nuclear weapons by the DPRK. 13 out of 15 call for an end to their tests. And 13 out of 15 call for unity in this Council. If there is not unity in this Council, it's not the 13, it's the 2. And I do join in calling for unity of this Council. I resume my function. Okay. I resume my function as President of the Council, and I give the floor to the representative of China.
谢谢主席。我们下面还要听取朝鲜代表和韩国代表的发言，所以我不会占用大家太多时间。但是对美国代表的发言，我要做一个简短的回应。正如我刚才发言中指出的那样，有关国家习惯性的将当前半岛的紧张局势的责任推给朝方，这与事实不符。朝方的发射活动与近期一系列的密集的军事活动密切相关。美国及其盟友的联合军演，绝不是刚才美国代表所称的例行的、合法的防御性那么简单。近年来，美国及有关方面的军演规模屡创新高，频率不断上升，甚至出动战略轰炸机、战略核潜艇抵达半岛。美方口头上声称愿意无条件对话，但行动上却在持续加紧制裁施压。试想，在这种情况下，对话如何得以重启？大家都呼吁要保持安理会的团结，中方当然也希望安理会的团结，但是安理会的团结需要各方共同做出努力。中方愿意继续就半岛问题与有关各方保持密切沟通， 同时继续做出我们建设性的努力。谢谢主席。
I thank the representative of China for their statement. I now give the floor to the representative of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea.
Satellite launch as exercise of the independent and legitimate rights of the sovereign state recognized under international law, which nobody can deny. DPRK has issued navigational warning in advance to ensure transparency of the satellite launch as well as the safety of the ships and aircrafts. Moreover, satellite launch caused no harm to the security of the neighboring country. As we made clear time and again, our launch of the reconnaissance satellite is exercise of the legitimate right to self-defense to deter ever-increasing hostile military act of the United States and its followers. At the same time, such a launch is a goal for building self-defense capability. This notwithstanding, Security Council has convened a meeting to take issue with our satellite launch as a separate agenda item in contravention of its mandate to maintain international peace and security, thus incurring yet another shameful disgrace to its reputation. DPRK condemns in strongest terms and the sound serious alarm of abnormal practice of condemning our legitimate right to launch a satellite as illegal at the Security Council. At a time when the fierce competition of the national power is unfolding among countries to preoccupy space resources, it cannot but be disgraced the United Nations representing 193 member states that the Security Council is questioning DPRK's satellite launch alone while resorting to nonsense act of equalizing satellite carrier rocket with intercontinental ballistic missile, calling on DPRK to abide by unlawful resolution of the Security Council, which has been reduced into the instrument of the United States to implement its aggressive strategy of world hegemony, its brigandish demand to concede all sovereign rights to the United States as belligerent party. DPRK has never recognized Security Council resolution infringing upon the right of sovereign state, and we will never be bound by them in the future neither. With regard to the illogical argument of the United States that our satellite launch include technology directly linked to the ICBM program, it does not make sense that DPRK persistently seek to acquire ICBM technology through the satellite launch, given the fact that it has been already operating ICBM forces. No one can deny the fact that at this moment, United States and military gangsters of the Republic of Korea are turning the Korean Peninsula into the potential area of immense thermonuclear war while claiming about end of the regime of DPRK and the wage large-scale ultra-freedom shield joint exercise featuring nuclear preemptive strike on our states as a fait accompli. The people in the world are witnessing the stark reality that the United States strategic reconnaissance asserts allegedly boasting of the advanced technology are frequently flying around in sky above the water around our territory, aimed at reconfirming, tracking, and monitoring targets for preemptive strike. Let me ask one question. Which country will ever remain idle under the circumstances and which other party technically at belligerent relation is gravely threatening its own security environment? UN Security Council should bear in mind that it's unfair, biased, and irresponsible act as it stands now is further driving the situation in Korean Peninsula and Northeast Asia into the catastrophe. If it really intended to contribute to peace and security on the Korean Peninsula, Security Council should call into the question the motive of the United States and its followers that conduct large-scale nuclear war exercise with mobilization of the several hundred of the thousand armed force and all kinds of the sophisticated offensive weapons and threatening entire Asia-Pacific region, including Northeast Asia. It also condemns Japanese heinous crime against humanity and extremely jeopardizing safety and security of the mankind and maritime ecological environment with its decision to discharge nuclear polluted water containing the large quantity of the radioactive material. The more United States and its followers set up hostile pressure and military threat against the DPRK, more vigorously and more courageously DPRK will exercise its legitimate rights of the sovereign state, including military reconnaissance satellite launch, to safeguard its sovereignty and security interests without fail. In conclusion, the international community should raise vigilance and voice against the danger and the gravity of the unlawful and arbitrary attempts by the United States and its followers to prevent the DPRK from exercising its sovereign right. I thank you.
Of the Democratic Republic of Korea for their statement, and I now give the floor to the Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to thank you for convening this open briefing of the Security Council. My gratitude also goes to ASG Mr. Chiari for his briefing. Madam President, the Republic of Korea condemns in the strongest possible terms the DPRK's launch of a so-called reconnaissance satellite on August 24th local time, which flagrantly violates multiple Security Council resolutions. Any launch that uses ballistic missile technology, regardless of its success, whatever payload it may carry, can contribute to the further advancement of ballistic missile technology. That is why this Council unanimously adopted many resolutions up until 2017 with no abstention or opposition that prohibit any launch by the DPRK using ballistic missile technology. The launch clearly demonstrates how routinely the DPRK flouts with contempt the solemn decisions of the Council, which all member states have agreed to accept and carry out in accordance with Article 25 of the UN Charter. Just a week ago, the Security Council held a public meeting on the human rights situation in the DPRK. Today, we are having yet another Council meeting on the DPRK's launch using ballistic missile technology. Combined together, these two agenda items accurately capture the very nature of the DPRK issue. A holistic approach is needed to better understand the true nature of these agenda items and effectively address them accordingly. The late father of the DPRK's current leader once mentioned in the year 2000 that it cost about $300 million to launch a satellite. According to that estimate, the DPRK would be spending nearly $1 billion on satellites by the end of this year if it conducts the third launch of its so-called satellite in October, as it announced 2 days ago. If we add all the missile launches by North Korea this year, the figures would be incomparably much higher than $1 billion. A few days ago, the top leader of the DPRK reportedly rebuked his own prime minister and other senior officials for their irresponsible handling of the recent flooding that inundated farmlands. Yet, their scarce resources continue to be diverted to WMD development, which could have been better spent on humanitarian needs and helping its undernourished people. That's what North Korea has just done again. Madam President and dear colleagues, the DPRK is the only country that has ever conducted a nuclear test in the 21st century. The DPRK is also the only country that joined the NPT and then openly developed nuclear weapons in defiance of its treaty obligations. The DPRK is the only country that explicitly targets specific countries while continuing to test various types of ballistic missiles, including ICBMs. Furthermore, it is the only country in the world that continues to develop nuclear weapons and missile programs while ignoring the great suffering of its own people in such a blatant manner. I need not remind this Council that the DPRK is funding its WMD programs through illegal activities such as malicious cyber activities, including hacking and theft in cryptocurrency markets, or forced labor by exploited workers dispatched overseas. We have noticed in recent days that the DPRK is opening its borders after a long lockdown. Railroad and maritime traffic are slowly increasing, and several North Korean commercial flights took off from Beijing to Pyongyang for the first time in 3 years. In light of these new developments, there should be no more any excuse for not repatriating all DPRK workers in other member states' jurisdiction, as stipulated Article 8 of Resolution 2397. All such workers should have been repatriated by the end of 2019, but still tens of thousands of DPRK workers remain overseas. All of them need to be returned without any further delay. Madam President, it is regrettable that some Council members are still confusing the cause and effect of the situation unfolding in the Korean Peninsula. As we have repeatedly pointed out, the DPRK has developed its unlawful nuclear and ballistic missile program for more than 3 decades, based on its own playbook. It is astonishing to see some delegations repeating the false claim of the DPRK that the root cause is the so-called hostile policy of the ROK and the United States. There is no such thing. The Republic of Korea and the United States have time and again provided numerous security assurances to the DPRK in various forms. Pyongyang's ever-growing threats are the very reason why we are strengthening extended deterrence cooperation with the U.S., not the other way around. It is our duty as a responsible government to protect the lives and the safety of our people from the DPRK's increasingly menacing threats by maintaining a robust combined defense and deterrence posture. As stated in the Camp David principles last week, the ROK, the US, and Japan will remain committed to the complete denuclearization of the DPRK and to dialogue and diplomacy with no preconditions. Madam President and dear colleagues, under the current circumstances, the unified voice of condemnation by the international community and the faithful implementation of all relevant Security Council resolutions by all UN member states are the only way to pressure Pyongyang into reconsidering its ill-advised behavior and policy. We urge the DPRK to stop provocative actions which endanger not only the world, but also itself, and respond positively to our call for dialogue. Our united action is essential to de-escalate the tension on the Korean Peninsula and change the course of the DPRK. I thank you, Madam President.
I thank the representative of Republic of Korea for their statement. The representative of Japan has asked for the floor to make a further statement. I give them the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. As DPRK's representative made a reference to the Alps treated water, although I don't see the relevance of their argument to today's topic, I just would like to make the following clear. This matter should not be subject to political discussions. We cannot accept any baseless allegations that lack scientific evidence. Japan remains fully committed to upholding transparency by providing information based on scientific evidence. Thank you.
The representative of China has asked for the floor to make a further statement. I give them the floor.
主席女士，我本来没有打算提及此事，但既然日本代表刚才做了发言，我恐怕也要阐释中方的立场。中方坚决反对日本政府不顾国际社会的质疑和反对，单方面强行启动核污染水排海，公然向全世界转嫁核污染风险。人为向海洋排放核事故污染水没有先例，也没有公认的处置标准。长期以来，围绕福岛核污染水排海对海洋环境、食品安全和人类健康的影响，一直存在严重关切。日方做法的正当性、合法性、安全性，也一直受到广泛的质疑。中方敦促日本政府纠正错误决定，立即停止核污染水排海，以真诚的态度同有关国家和利益官方善意沟通，以负责任的方式处置核污染水。谢谢主席。
I thank the representative of China for their statement. The representative of the Democratic Republic of Korea has asked for the floor to make a further statement. I give them the floor.
I want to take the floor again to correct some point made by Japanese delegation. The BFAB, discharge of the nuclear polluted water into the ocean, is directly linked to the mandate of the UN Security Council. The discharge nuclear polluted water into the ocean is clearly criminal act of destroying ecological environment of the ocean and threatening existence of the humankind. The behavior of this discharge nuclear polluted water into the ocean as a typical manifestation of the double-faced, double-dealing attitude of Japan, which talk about nuclear threat and nuclear-free of the world. Because it has been verified scientifically that so-called clean water, the filtered through the Alps, are still containing the large quantity of the radioactive material. So the terrible discharge of the nuclear polluted water into the ocean is absolutely unacceptable. The Japan should immediately withdraw its decision to discharge nuclear polluted water into the oceans for safety and the future of the humankind. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the Democratic Republic of Korea for their statement, and I now, the representative of Japan has asked for the floor to make a further statement. I give them the floor.
Well, thank you very much. I thank the presidency for, giving me the floor. With regard to the, our statement, remarks put forward by our Chinese colleague and DPRK representative, well, they use the word, contaminated water, threatening the ecological system and so forth. I think, when they use the word contaminated water, they have to be clear about its scientific basis. Why is it contaminated? Is it because the water discharged from Japan contain more nuclide than the level which is admitted by the international norms and rules? Is it because the discharged water from Japan include more nuclide than the level of the nuclides included in other parts of the world? This is very technical, so I don't want to step into the details, but I have to make clear. ALPS treated water is sufficiently purified until the concentration of radioactive materials other than tritium is below the regulatory standard. The water will be then diluted by more than 100 times before gradually released into the sea. By dilution, released water will be far below the regulatory standard, including tritium, and beyond 3 kilometers from the power plant, concentration of tritium and other nuclides will be the same as those already found in seawater. Thank you very much.
There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers. The meeting is adjourned.
Well, if they're really desperate, they hit the microphone and they say they ask. Like, I've seen that too. Like, it's, oh yeah, people do it though. I've seen that. If you're desperate. Oh no, I.
Have a good weekend. See you.
guys see an umbrella here? Umbrella? I left an umbrella right there.
Just now?
Yeah, just now.
Nobody? We are just cleaning up. We didn't see it though.
Maybe somebody from our mission. No, maybe, well,